and then going to New York, where Tiger and the rest of the Olympians will be fighting. Main event, I don't foresee a lot of trouble for Vasyl Lomachenko. We talked about this before, and I'm curious if you've considered it all. So he's sparred with Jamaine Ortiz before.
Okay.
My thought is it can work obviously against you and for you, but I think it actually might help Ortiz maybe a little bit more than it helps Lomachenko, because Lomachenko has such a unique style that at least you've been in there with a version of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not Lomachenko ratcheted up to 10 with pivots and everything like that.
Right.
But at least you've seen him
Right.
in the ring.
Right.
I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Well, some guys really are that far along that they don't have to really operate to protect themselves, operate to hurt you and box and things like that. And then a lot of guys just use sparring as a way to kind of sweat.
Yeah.
You know, some guys like my dad and I, we were in camp and we were telling guys like, hey, come ready to hurt because Shawn is going 75 to 80%.
Yeah.
You know, then there's moments where you go up to 90, you know, but we that's how we train. A lot of people don't train like that, you know. So it really is hard to say like you've seen that style, but have you seen it with that speed? Have you seen it with that level of intensity that he performs with on fight night, you know? And a lot of times guys aren't ready for it. The other side of that is if you've tasted it before, you knew you had some trouble with it.
Yeah.
And you know that, and you could tell like, hey, this wasn't the same guy that fought on Saturday night. You are definitely thinking about what's gonna happen.
And is it kind of similar? I know after and Jamaine Ortiz obviously coming off a good win against Jamel Herring, but when we talked about after Ugas fought Pacquiao, you made a point to say like these guys have like Pacquiao or Ugas has watched Pacquiao forever.
Yeah.
So at least to some level you visualize it.
Yeah.
Is that also something, whether you've sparred with him or not, he's thought it's Lomachenko?
Oh,
like, I'm clearly in
absolutely,
that mindset.
Especially after being in the ring
you did with Pacquiao.
Yeah, the sparring for a lot of guys is just kind of, well, let me give you the work that you want because you needed me to come in and give you work, but then also let me test myself. Let me see where I'm at as well, you know? So definitely when you get a moment to spar with a great fighter, no matter how close you are to fighting that guy, how close you are at age, whatever the case may be, there's still a level of excitement because you get an experience, you know? So I'm curious to see if that experience carries Jamaine or if it kind of like pulls him back.
I'm just always fond of seeing Lomachenko fight.
Yeah, I know you are.
So that'll be interesting. And then kind of going off of that, and then we can dive into some other stuff. But it's interesting, just the narrative of. So Bob Arum said his plan or his goal is to make Lomachenko and Haney after this. I mentioned I think last week when I was on. Haney doesn't owe Lomachenko that.
No.
Like, and there's a narrative kind of like he does. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, well, Lomachenko, and I'm like, and then there's this whole thing where Lomachenko petitioned to be a franchise champion and Haney was his mandatory, and then Haney was the champ as well, as we all knew, where there was back and forth that, but he doesn't like owe Lomachenko a fight. I think Haney is all about it.
Yeah.
And I think Haney has proven more than maybe any other young fighter. He's down for the action. Went overseas twice to fight Kambosos when he didn't have to.
Yeah.
Signed with Top Rank when he didn't have to.
Yeah.
He did it to do it. So I've never had the impression that Devin Haney would duck any fight.
Yeah.
And I don't see why Lomachenko would be any different.
I know that the Haney family, they're all about greatness.
Yeah.
So but they are also very business savvy as well. And I think that's the thing that really gets people in this game is when the dollars just sometimes don't make sense. And you're like, well, this makes all the sense in the world, but then how is this fight not happening?
Yeah.
You know? I know we'll get to Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence eventually, cool out. But kind of the same thing in that respect where it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, how are you, what? And it's like, yeah, but behind closed doors, something that we saw didn't make sense.
And that also for that fight specifically, that one just seemed, if that fight does come to fruition,
that's a great fight.
It's an amazing fight. And it's for Devin. It's a great fight for legacy.
Yeah.
Fighting Lomachenko.
Yeah.
Who's regarded as this guy.
Yeah.
And also, I don't see why that wouldn't be financially beneficial as
Sure,
well.
sure, sure,
So
sure.
I
Yeah.
think that's one of those situations where it probably works out both ways, where
Sure.
it's a legacy fight and a financial
Yeah.
windfall, if you will. But
Yeah.
it'd be a great fight. But yeah, I assume Lomachenko will do what he does. A
Yeah.
lot of pivots, a lot of lot of doing his thing in there. But
Yeah.
do we want to go? Is there any questions that intrigue you off the jump street, or do we want to go?
Somebody said that that Ortiz can move with Loma. How you feel about that?
Not sure about he can move with Loma,
Uh-huh.
but he can move. Ortiz, I was impressed, and I know Jamel. We talked about it like at the time, and then Jamel even talked about it that he just didn't. Jamel wasn't really himself. Not to
Uh-huh.
discredit Ortiz, but um, he looked good in that fight. I'm not sure if he can move with Lomachenko. I think they're. You know who? You know how about this? I've told you before in sports, music, and anything. When somebody that I highly respect tips their cap to somebody I also respect, it just kind of validates you a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So there's like a video, a classic. Anyone on YouTube that's a hip hop fan, go watch Most Def talk about MF Doom.
Oh yeah.
He can't even believe it. He's
Yeah, yeah,
reciting
yeah.
lyrics. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they asked, I apologize, I can't think of the outlet that it was, but they were talking to Lomachenko and they mentioned Bam Rodriguez. And he
Ah.
was like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay, because that's been a comparison,
Uh-huh.
footwork and everything.
Uh-huh.
So that's one of the only guys I think of footwork wise that I think could really tangle with Lomachenko. Obviously, they won't fight, but
Yeah.